Tonight, the lethal weapons on British streets.
The thought of that coming into Britain is absolutely terrifying.
Yes.
And innocent families caught in the crossfire.
I went to identify her body. It was the worst feeling ever. I would never wish that on anyone.
Good evening and welcome to the Tonight programme. When two unarmed policewomen were shot dead in Manchester this autumn, the nation reacted with shock and disbelief. Since then, the government has promised a crackdown on gun crime. But tonight, in a special investigation, Fiona Foster uncovers a worrying new supply route, which could mean an increase in the number of illegal weapons falling into the wrong hands in Britain's deadly gun trade.
Gun crime, a top priority for police forces across the country. Highly trained firearms units like this one can be called into action 24 hours a day.
Excellent shooting there, officer.
Their mission? To protect the public from more scenes like these.
Were lured to their death and killed by repeated gunfire.
PC's Fiona Bone and Nicola Hughes were gunned down in an attack that also saw grenades thrown.
A bright university student shot dead in an unprovoked attack on the street.
Anuj Bidve was shot at point-blank range with a gun that's still out on the streets.
But Tusha, who's been hit in the chest by a bullet, is left lying on the ground.
Tusha Kamal Swaran was just 5 years old when she was paralysed for life during a robbery. Shootings that shocked the nation. The fear is that unless more is done to cut the trade in illegal firearms, we'll see more tragedies like these. The government has pledged to act.
We're increasing the maximum sentence to life for those who import guns and death onto our street.
That's because firearms were used in more than 11,000 offences last year, with nearly 60% of those taking place in London, the West Midlands and Greater Manchester. But just how many illegal guns are out there, and where are they coming from?
Well, we have seen an increase in the use of firearms in some areas within Greater Manchester, but that's probably in keeping with a lot of the metropolitan areas up and down the country. You don't need that many firearms incidents to create a spike. And often the spike will be caused as a result of a fallout between two rival groups or gangs.
Gangs are involved in about 50% of the shootings. So we're still seeing the hardcore of people that we're targeting. That hasn't changed a lot. It's still the same types of individuals that we're seizing those guns from.
Although gun crime rates have been falling, some believe illegal firearms are now much easier to get hold of and are falling into younger and younger hands. I met up with a former career criminal who told me that nowadays there's a much more casual attitude towards using guns.
There is a lot more weaponry available now than there was. A lot more. I think at one time they were used probably more for intimidation and were more often not fired than fired. The kids are much more willing, able and capable of using a gun. Maybe because you looked at somebody funny, or that awful respect issue. You've not shown respect, so you're shot.
Today, by far and away, the commonest weapons used are handguns.
The majority of the weapons here at the National Ballistics Intelligence Service were once on the streets. Most were recovered in amnesties, some from crime scenes. Martin Parker, the service's lead scientist, says there's been a stark change in the types of guns being used by criminals.
Well, certainly when I started in the mid-80s, sawn-off shotguns was the commonest sort of weapon that we used to see, and I mean, these are examples. So you've got weapons, some of which will be over 100 years old, but they still function, so they'll still be used in crime. At the other end of the scale, you've got weapons like the Glock. So it's a modern pistol with a polymer frame. This is the Uzi submachine gun, more modern weapon. It is Israeli design, but again, we've seen examples of this that have been deactivated and then have been reactivated and used in crime.
It's relatively easy. It's not about the kind of network of connections that you would have needed 30 years ago. If a young man, or a young woman for that matter, can pick up a little gun on the estate, maybe with 3 rounds in it, then there's 3 potential murders there. And unfortunately, I see things getting worse rather than getting better.
With illegal guns seemingly more readily available, unarmed police officers know all too well they're risking their lives on a daily basis. During the summer riots of 2011, Inspector Nick Rowe and a team of West Midlands police officers were sent to investigate reports of an arson attack on a pub.
I was in the front van with the lead van that night, and so we got deployed to the Barton Arms to the report of a disorder. Obviously, we'd had a few disorders over the previous 36 hours or so, and we thought it was going to be a standard disorder.
But what happened next was to take everyone by surprise.
We got out of our vehicles, started forming up at the top of the stairs here, and I was about to deploy to take on the crowd which are in this street down here, round about the bottom of the steps, and then you hear the sound of firearms. You can hear crack, crack, crack.
CCTV cameras show a gang of up to 40 hooded and masked men rush down the street. They turn, pause to take aim, then open fire on the police in a deliberate attack.
The windows went in behind us, and then you're thinking, right, I need to get everyone out of here now quite quickly. And that's what you did, everyone back on the vans and withdraw, regroup and get the specialist teams involved.
A hooded man also attempted to shoot down the force's helicopter. Arms outstretched, he points his gun up to the sky and fires.
What we were able to do then is use laser technology to track back to see where the guns had been fired from and its proximity to the officers, and then look at the ammunition or the cartridges on the ground and identify the weapons. I've never come across so many guns being used on one occasion. It was brazen, and it was clear that, as I say, people were taking aim, and the potential to kill somebody was obviously there.
8 men were jailed for between 12 and 35 years each, a total of 188 years. They're now appealing their convictions, which included riot and possession of firearms with intent to endanger life. 2 of the guns were recovered by police, but another 2 are still in criminal hands.
I thought about afterwards about it could have been a completely different story. It was, you know, a really bad event as it was, but it could have been horrendous. I'm convinced if we'd have come here from a different way, or if there'd have been better shots, you would have dead police officers now, without a shadow of a doubt.
58 people were killed by firearms in England and Wales last year. That's an increase of almost half on the year before, and the highest level since 2006. Agnes Sinna-Inakoju is among the innocent victims of gun crime. The 16-year-old schoolgirl was with friends in a takeaway in East London when she was shot in the neck by 2 gang members who fired through the window. Their intended target was a teenage boy from a rival gang.
Tell me a little about what Agnes was like. How would you describe her?
I would describe her as a loving person and down to earth.
She's probably the most wonderful person you will want to have around you.
Martin Luther King had a dream. You have a dream.
She was on study leave at the time. It was the Easter holidays, and she was preparing for her GCSEs. She was predicted to get very good grades in those, and she was obviously planning for her future. She was in the wrong place at the wrong time, just sat in that takeaway window when the 2 gunmen cycled up. There'd been a build-up to it, as we now know, in the days before, where a gang member had been beaten up on the Sunday night. There were some people in the chicken shop which were responsible. The 2 gunmen pulled up outside the shop on their bikes. Leon Dunkley pulled out the gun and fired once through the window. Everyone dived for cover. Agnes was struck in the neck and collapsed on the floor inside the shop.
By the time she wanted to look up, it was too late for her to hide. I didn't believe it because I was thinking, why would someone want to shot her? She hasn't done anything.
A CCTV camera inside the takeaway shows Agnes on the right and dressed in black, chatting with two friends. Outside, the gunman pulls up on a bike. What happens next is too distressing to show here.
You can feel everything she was going. You can feel, just looking at the... You can feel everything. She was on the floor just rolling around and...
Agnes died in hospital 36 hours later. 22-year-old Leon Dunkley and 21-year-old Mohammed Smoured are now serving 32 years in prison. Neither showed any remorse or gave any explanation for how such a deadly illegal firearm came to be in their possession.
It's an Agram submachine pistol. There's been about 4 others in the country. The gun was used on 6 previous occasions, all around London. How he came to be in possession of that gun on that night, we can't definitively say.
I went to identify her body, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. You're just thinking, someone looked like they're sleeping, like they're gonna wake up in a minute, but they're not waking up. It was the worst feeling ever. I will never wish that on anyone.
It's unbelievable that someone can be carrying such guns. I don't know how many people they want to kill carrying such guns around.
So how are such powerful weapons finding their way onto the streets of Britain in the first place?
Generally speaking, these are plastic frame or polymer frame guns. Most of them are high capacity. They're relatively cheap ammunitions to buy.
Many have been smuggled in from here in the United States, where guns can be bought legally over the counter. That's exactly what international gun runner 39-year-old Stephen Greeno did. In 2010, he made several trips from the UK, where he was living, back to his hometown of Raleigh, North Carolina. Once there, he bought dozens of guns, flew back with them hidden in his luggage, and sold them to criminals in Liverpool.
So when Stephen Greeno came in here as a customer, how did he seem to you?
Very normal, very nice. Developed somewhat of a friendly relationship with him. He called us by name, we knew his name, and just very normal.
So this was the kind of gun he was buying?
Yes.
He bought more than one gun at a time. How unusual is that for you?
It's not very unusual at all. We have lots of customers that do that, and even depending on what they're wanting to buy, we'll offer a discount for buying more than one.
There's no limit on how many guns a person can own in the United States. All it takes is a permit, ID, and the correct paperwork.
And you have a concealed carry permit?
Yes.
Greeno's guns have been linked to various crimes in the UK, including an attempted robbery, an attempted murder, even a killing.
Knowing that you sold quite legally and in good faith these weapons, what are your feelings about that?
Well, it's certainly disappointing that lives have been needlessly lost, but at the same time, he did purchase them legally here, and he broke the law elsewhere, but the paperwork was completed properly. He had the proper credentials, and he paid the money. So that's all that our government requires.
The guns Greeno was buying may look small, but they're deadly, as demonstrated by Sergeant George Barnes from Wake County PD, Greeno's home force.
What we have here are Glock handguns, 3 different models and 3 different calibers. The amount of ammunition that this gun can hold is only limited by the size of the magazine that you put in it. For example, this is a 10-round magazine that fits this handgun, okay, a 9mm round, 10 rounds. This is the same style magazine, 9mm, and it fits the same gun.
And the idea of guns like these being smuggled into somewhere like the UK and sold into the criminal underworld, I mean, what does that prospect do for you?
Well, Any firearm in anyone's hands, no matter its caliber, that is untrained is dangerous because they don't know what they're doing with them, especially when you have those firearms in a country where the average citizen does not possess one.
So maybe now, George, you'd show us how these things work.
Yes, I'd be glad to.
Oh, it's just terrifying. I mean, the thought of that coming into Britain and being in the hands of someone who, A, doesn't really know what they're doing, and B, just wants to do harm with it is absolutely terrifying.
Yes, its lethality is only suppressed by the imagination of the person intent to do ill harm.
Between February and July 2010, Greenough made 9 trips, successfully smuggling in 63 handguns. He was only stopped when police in Liverpool bought 3 as part of an undercover operation. They traced the serial numbers on the weapons back to the purchase at Perry's gun store. And the authorities in the US soon had him under surveillance.
He took gun boxes, empty gun boxes, and carried them over here, and he threw them away in the household waste only dumpster. Now he had 33 gun boxes that he disposed of in there, and also a bag that contained the individual casings, the test fire casings that were with the gun boxes.
And that proved what exactly?
The casings that were taken were compared ballistically over in England, and they matched up identically with casings that were recovered at crime scenes over there.
And once he dumped the gun cases, how long was it after that before he was arrested?
The following day. We arrested him the next day at the airport with 16 guns in his luggage.
Stephen Greenough is now serving 10 years in an American prison. The whereabouts of 51 of the guns he smuggled into Britain are unknown. But one of them has been linked to 8 different shootings.
Smugglers operate in various ways.
David Dyson is one of the country's leading firearms experts.
Would you say that it is easier now to get a gun in Britain than it has ever been?
To a certain extent, I think that's probably true. And again, the reason I would say that is because weapons from different sources have been identified. It's only when these items are seized that you know they exist.
Presumably where there has been recent fighting, that's where arms are going to come from.
I think that's absolutely right. Wherever there's conflict, you will find the opportunity for weapons to, if you like, come out of the back door. And also the breakup of the former Soviet Union has released a lot of weapons onto the black market. The converted Baikal pistol, I would say, is the weapon of choice these days. That particular pistol has been seized in large numbers. To my knowledge, hundreds have been seized by the police. So given that, the logical assumption must be there's a lot more out there. Thousands, but who knows how many.
As part of a special Tonight investigation, we've uncovered a worrying new supply route potentially available at the click of a mouse. The dark web is a highly encrypted section of the internet, where people can conduct illegal transactions without fear of being traced. Here, you don't need underworld contacts. Anyone can buy an illegal firearm for themselves.
And when you see this, there's pages and pages of it. As an expert in firearms, what do you think?
It's quite astonishing. The firearms that are for sale there are conventional weapons. Some of the descriptions on this website, it's clear that these people know very well that they're breaking the law, they're committing an offence, and they're apparently prepared to do it.
This one, for instance, he even says in his description, the gun was stolen before it was sold by a gun dealer, so the serial numbers are not registered. They can be filed off at the request of the buyer.
Absolutely. This person clearly knows that, first of all, the weapon itself's stolen, it's illegal, and is clearly prepared to sell it to anybody.
There are weapons of every description on sale. Handguns, assault rifles, even submachine guns, like this Mac-10, available for as little as £1,000.
What are your thoughts of a weapon like that being for sale online?
It's never a good idea, especially with this particular firearm. It has a rate of fire, 30-round magazines, and again, in the hands of the wrong person, it can do a great deal of harm. So anytime you're buying firearms with the intent of being covert or subversive, buying them when you know you shouldn't, if the internet provides that avenue, it's probably not the best idea.
I think the internet has brought in a whole different dynamic to what's been the traditional means of supplying firearms. And all I can sort of see in that is that we are aware of some of the channels now available, and we are working actively to ensure that they are blocked off, or we get the earliest possible indication of people who are trying to use these means to buy firearms.
With illegal weapons coming into the UK via so many different routes, just how do the police track them down? Well, every time one is fired, it leaves a unique mark on the bullet. A team of forensic scientists here at the National Ballistics Intelligence Service use that information to help determine what type of gun the bullet came from, and if it's been used before in other crimes.
So what happens now?
OK, we've actually captured the details of the bullet. So now what we're going to do is ask the system to check against all the other bullets which have been recovered from crime scenes of the same calibre. We can compare bullets that are here against other labs. We can actually search against bullets from different countries.
All of this helps the authorities to build up a picture of how many illegal firearms might be on our streets and how many times they've been used.
It's probably the strongest evidence that you can get, being able to say, this is the weapon that was used in this incident, or this same weapon was used in these different incidents.
Police forces are also working hard to take guns and ammunition out of circulation.
We've seized 280 guns so far this year, and shootings are down 28%. So clearly the guns that we're recovering are having a serious impact. And what that equates to is there's 37 less people this year who've been shot in London as a result of that.
We have to put our faith in the fact that the use of firearms is going down. I don't think we're going to be in a position to say it's going to get any better or any worse. All we can be in a position to say is that we are absolutely committed to keep firearms off the streets and the supply chain absolutely snuffed out.
In a bid to crack down on people who hire out weapons to gangs, the government's announced plans to introduce a new offence of supplying a firearm. It'll come with a maximum sentence of life imprisonment.
You do something heinous, and for the rest of your life, you're either in prison or on licence, subject to recall, if you step out of line.
The gun used to kill 16-year-old Agnes Sinna-Inokoju may now have been taken off the streets, but that's small comfort to the family left mourning their loss.
You don't expect your child to be shot somewhere or something. It's just... it's unbelievable. It's just too much.
If you'd like more information on tonight's programme, please visit our website at itv.com/tonight. Until next week, though, good evening and thanks for watching.
Coming up next week, crime levels are down, but a hardcore of criminals is committing more offences than ever. So what is Britain's judicial system doing about it? Tonight goes behind bars to find out.